I think there's too much of this negative media corporate narrative for women in the midlife. It's
Yes.
okay not to be okay. I says, no, it is our personal responsibility to be accountable, take responsibilities for our thoughts, the vocabulary, words, and language in our self-talk, internal language, and in our spoken word. If we don't believe in ourselves, how can we
Yeah.
believe in our lives?
Yeah.
Knowing how to actually be resilient all comes down to mindset, comes down to your intention. When we're aligned, we're in the present moment. So you can either live in the past or live in the future, or the both. But if
Yeah.
you cannot master the present moment, you cannot be in the future. But what you can do is you can let go of the past
Hmm.
and where you can enjoy the
And
moment.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Drake Michigan podcast. And before we've just gone live now, we've been speaking to the amazing Roisin all the way over from Northern Ireland. Now, we're going to get back into some of the stories that we've just been talking about because they're fantastic and inspirational, and we want you to hear those too. So, first of all, I'm going to welcome Roisin to the show, and we're going to ask her to jump straight in and tell us all about her business and her platform, Confident Women in Ireland. Hi, Roisin.
Hello, Ant and Kev. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me onto your amazing platform and for the amazing work that you're doing as well.
thank you, Rasheen.
Thank you. So, Roisin, can I just ask you, because we just briefly spoke and you come up with the idea or you had the inspiration from Spirit back in 2007 about the platform Confident Women of Ireland. But can you just share for the viewers to know so what it is, what it offers, what you do, and just basically give us an oversight of the whole project that you have there?
Mm.
Well, Confident Women Ireland is Ireland's first coaching organization for women. And it's about really, well, how I describe Confident Women at Ireland is we're all confident beings, but we're not confident 24 hours a day, how many days in the year. You know, some people may be confident in, you might be confident in technology. I am not one bit confident in technology. So we're not confident in all areas of our lives. And there's a difference between confidence and self-confidence and
Yes.
Yeah.
competence.
Yeah.
And so Confident Women Ireland is about really enabling women to get to know themselves, to reach to their own potential. And when I mean that, like get to know yourselves, is how many of us really know ourselves? How many of us trust ourselves? How
Yes.
many really of us really enjoy being ourselves and liking ourselves,
Yeah.
appreciating, valuing? There's so much of this negativity of self doubt and self sabotaging, and this new thing is, you are enough. Well, it's like even in that terminology, in that phrase, you are enough. You're actually telling people you're not enough, and getting them to question, am I enough? So it's about really women just reconnecting with
Beautiful.
themselves again, and from personal life coaching to media coaching, PR coaching, menopause mindset coaching, not the symptoms or anything, but the mindset coaching for menopause. Now I have a big theory about that, and I think
Mhm.
for me, yes, menopause was the most it wasn't the most horrific time in my life. Like, let's be honest, like I've had worse life situations, but it was the end. I was in, for me, it was, I had what I looked up, I went to an event and I thought, oh my God, there was 40 symptoms. And I looked and I had 35 of the symptoms. And so I said, oh my God. But at the same time, it was the most empowering, liberating, and creative time in my life.
Wow.
I think there's too much of this negative media corporate narrative for women in the midlife. And I'm a radio presenter. Well, I was. I've left the media now. I was a producer and presenter of my own 2 shows. And one was a woman to woman show, and the other was a Start Me Up business program.
Yeah.
And I was one of the very first here in Ireland, one of the first, not the first, I don't, but one of the very first to actually start talking about menopause in 2017, 18. And then I noticed there was an awful lot of people were coming on board, but it was all about the negative narrative of menopause. And for me, the menopause, yeah, it was like awful. I had the brain fog live on air, not looking at my 4 panel of guests and going, I can't remember their names. I can't even remember what they came to talk about. And I couldn't remember what the conversation was after that break, So I had the brain fog. But to me, so I started to see a pattern of how the media, big pharma, corporates, business, and governments as well, all coming in, and it was really a disempowering narrative for women, making out that women in the midlife were helpless, hysterical,
Right. Okay.
and so I sort of then put that side of Confident Women Ireland about, celebrating women and their midlife.
100%. Yeah.
Women in our midlife, I would say women are only in their peak now at 60. You know, you
Yeah.
know,
Why
and I'm
shouldn't you?
56. I'm 56, and I've got okay, but I've got another good couple of years before I reach.
Yeah, yeah.
Women in their 60s and older, like you guys. I grew up with great, role models as women. And there's
Yeah.
something I don't know about over in England, but here in Ireland, I'm from the north and I'm living in the Republic in the south in Kilkenny. But I've noticed that the younger generation, I'm talking about 45 down, they don't have role models like I was brought up with.
Mm.
Older women being
Yeah.
real role models. And so Confident Women Ireland is about celebrating women and promoting women and, ordinary women doing extraordinary things. To me, that's really empowering. And local women within our communities being such a role model for the younger generation as well.
Fantastic. So, do you offer online and live courses for like individual topics, or do you hold like weekend retreats, or how does it all work?
Well, I suppose before the pandemic, there was
Yeah.
all the sort of like online. Now, I'm technologically blind, and my son says technology's wasted on me. But I'm learning. And so everything used to be, face to face. But the great thing about the pandemic was I learned how to use Zoom. So
Yeah.
at least I know how to use Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a training facilitator as well. Spent years as a professional training facilitator. So I'm now transferred everything online as
Mhm.
well as face to face from next year on. I still do face to face, but so yeah, online courses, online through Zoom,
Yeah.
and so next year I'm planning on doing retreats, midlife women's retreats.
Beautiful.
So
Lovely.
that's something. And I went back this year and just finished my event management course. So because I wanted to know how to really structure everything and the nuts and bolts of putting on an event.
Can I just ask Roisin? So, obviously, ladies, when they are going through the menopause or they're coming to yourself for these courses, is it a lack of knowledge? And they don't understand what's happening to them, or they're like a fear of the change that they're going through. And is that the kind of thing where you sort of walk them through it and hold the hand through it? Is
Yeah. Do you know what it is? I think there's an awful lot within the media, with the fear mongering and the fear messaging that women. I remember my mother going, our mothers, you probably said, oh, she's going through the change,
Mhm.
yeah,
going out and standing at the front door when
Yeah.
they had a hot flush and go,
Yeah.
Jesus, like, and the low moods and, the lack of, and the confidence drop.
Mhm.
And
yes,
an awful lot of people, thought they were having nervous breakdowns, but they weren't because they had all these symptoms happening to their body.
Yes.
And
That could be very scary as well, I can imagine.
it's puberty in reverse. If you think, here's the thing, if we see a teenager and they're having a strap or they're having a bad day or they're just hormonal, we roll their eyes up and go, teenagers, right? Teenagers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then if you see a pregnant woman and she's emotional or she's anything, the hormones are at work. It's Mother Nature at the best. It's Mother Nature doing her job. And we also go, oh, she's expecting. Oh, she's just had a baby. Pregnancy blues. And we have empathy, compassion, and we're there to help teenagers, pregnant mothers, and new mothers. But we have no compassion, no empathy. And I don't like using that word empathy because I think that's been taken to woke stage. But we don't show one another the way it did in our history, where women used to all come together at weekends, or if you go back to the years ago when there was a full moon, women used to have their menstrual cycle usually
The
around a full
moonstruck.
moon. And if you see a group of women living together, their menstrual cycles, for some reason, all seem to happen at the same week, around the same time.
Yeah.
And here I am talking about menstrual cycles to two men. But
Right. We've all got partners. We can all relate to it.
right. So, and years ago, I remember when I was growing up, my friends would say, "Do I look like I got my period? My eye, in work, do I look period? And we put on extra makeup, or the hair would get greasier. You would know, something, And we used to show one another, here, do this, do that, or are you on your period or something? Then I noticed over the years, it seems to be changing. It's like women want us connected as a group or as
Yeah.
friends. And like guys, you need friends, male friends. And women, we need women friends equally as much, And I do believe men communicate differently and women communicate differently. And so, yes, so we're getting back to the point was it's it's not about our mothers years ago. My mother, maybe she was open or what. She used to talk about the menopause, the change,
Mm.
going through the change. So I was always aware of it. And so, it's, and then I noticed over the years, and especially when it's in the radio, the Me Too movement, and I used to say on air, got no wonder it's cancelled and ghosted and blacklisted. That's coming from Hollywood. That's Harvey to cover up the Harvey Weinstein. And I
Yeah.
started to see the fake feminism coming in. And here I had a women's radio show promoting women's empowerment and women's issue. And I noticed there was a real disconnect between the suffragettes who were real feminisms. They were the suffragettes for the vote and equal rights. But also behind the real feminism, there was also men making the way for women to have equal rights. So you can't just say, "Oh, the suffragettes," feminism. There's also men. Years ago, men were the women's champions, just like women were men's champions. Then I started to look into it and I go, okay, to the Irish history, a lot of the Irish during the Irish Civil War, the War of Independence, the 19th Easter Rising, women were very prominent. My grandmother was, and she used to talk about she was involved in that. And I really, then you look at the Irish history and you see that women from the photo were airbrushed out of photographs from the 1916 and the 1921 and since then. Then here in Ireland, we had the marriage ban. If you worked for a government agency when you got married from the formation of the Irish Free State, you were not allowed to work, right? So then I noticed then the mother and baby homes. And that's another story, right? The mother and baby homes. Then you notice here recently the cervical check issues we had in Ireland. Then especially with the Irish Defence Forces, the Women of Honour. Women, I noticed within the Irish and you think the Irish Free State, the Republic of Ireland, is only 100 years old. So Ireland, this country of Ireland, is only 100 years old, bearing in mind I come from the north. And I'm going, my God, it's really anti-women. It's really anti-women. So there's another whole story to that, the reason why. But so the menopause, I think women just want to know, oh my God, is that what that is? Is that why I used to be size 0? Well, not literally, but like, I used to be really skinny, and all of a sudden I have bloated and bloated and got fatter and fatter. Is this the reason I think I'm losing my mind? I've got brain fog. I've got low moods because the hormones are dropping.
Yeah.
And it's puberty in reverse. Once women know that these are the symptoms, in my opinion, these are the symptoms. And this is why, too, confidence drops. There's more than enough research to say, and I would say it's genuine research, that women's confidence takes a dip because it's puberty in reverse. It's
Can I just, sorry to interrupt you there, Roisin, just while you're on the subject there. So obviously we live in a world now, obviously, where we're living a lot longer. And so obviously back in the day, maybe if women went through the menopause and change, would have been seen as more later on in their life, if you like.
Yeah.
Whereas today now, I think a lot of people would probably agree, like the new 60 is the new 40, that kind of philosophy. So I can imagine a woman when she's going through these difficult changes in her life and it's affecting her confidence, things like still feeling sexy or wanted, or if they're single. So that must, if your confidence is low and they need to know this information, because that can take control of your life and stop you having fun and living your life to your fullest.
Yeah, it really can. And I think too, that is also coming from the media. And it's also coming from big pharma, because they want you to go and buy HRT. They want everybody on the HRT. And there's a big HRT drive here, all talking about libido and things like that. Yes, your body's going through all these, changes, and you're physically, and, even all your organs are changing. It's Mother Nature saying it's your time for your body to go to rest. You don't need to reproduce anymore. And it's the end of reproduction for a woman. I would also say my grandmother lived until she was 92, and her other sisters were all in their 90s. One was 95, and they were still alive then. So how do we know that we're living longer? How do we only know what we're told? So, and if you go back to the times, women and men, older people were respected, and there's still some cultures where older people are really respected as the wise elders within our communities. Older people, I think that even men, if men in politics and men everything else, they're in their prime in their 60s. They are really, anyone in 40, they haven't really reached that sense of wisdom, life experience and knowledge. Whereas there was a thing in the media. If you go back to marketing, I really want to go into who was the first marketer in the world. Now, I know who invented PR, but when you think about television and marketing, really what has marketing and television advertisements and magazines really done? They've really sold the cosmetics. They sold the big pharma. So
sold a lie, isn't it, really?
All the time.
Yeah. So
Roisin, can I bring you back to the HRT thing? Because it's a personal interest of mine. So my partner's had quite a lot of ill health over the years, and she had a hysterectomy, and was obviously forced into the menopause, in her early 40s. And I saw even this year, when the HRT wasn't working properly, how it affected her physically and mentally, and it was quite frightening. So there's almost that dependency on that hormonal balance. So is there other options then for ladies that are experience in this.
There is, and that was one of my issues too. I went through the natural menopause, not because anything else, but it wasn't a HRT wasn't the main thing. I remember I was walking, and I'm coming to your point now. I was walking in the local supermarket. My GP came up to me and says, Roisin, you put on weight, because I used to be really thin. And I went, yeah. And that morning I had trouble putting up my zip in my skirt. So it was, I knew. And yeah, how did he know? He must be reading my mind. So he's coming to me in the morning. And I went into the menopause. He did a blood test the next morning because he wanted to know why I put on so much weight. And I thought, oh my God. So he said, blood test, come back next week. And he said, that right, exactly what I thought. You're right smack bang in the middle of menopause. And I said, Dr. Lynch, I think you've got the wrong file. So I just got on with it, and I suppose my education was coming in and interviewing women on my radio show where I got to know more information. The HRT, I have, I have the breast issues with mammograms and stuff. So I'm contraindicated in taking HRT. So then it was during the pandemic that I says, right, I phoned him up and says, I need HRT. Because it was all this was HRT good for helping. I had sleep deprivation. I hadn't slept since I was 42. And I was, so I'm 56 now. So I was 54. So it was 12 years. And he says, why do you want HRT? I says, I want to sleep. And he said, is there any issues? Are you stressed? What's stopping you from sleep? I said, lack of sleep. I said, maybe if I get on the HRT, I might be able to sleep. They said, very good. I was on the HRT for about 4 weeks. And I woke up in the middle of the night. And just so it was before I realized that I had the breast issues, my whole thing, I couldn't even move my fingers. So I had the patch, so I just whipped the patch off. HRT doesn't suit everyone. And even if you come off the HRT, you still got to go through Mother Nature's menopause symptoms. So there's one rule of thought and rule of thumb that even if you go on the HRT, when you eventually do come off it, you're still going to have to go through the symptoms. And now they're recommending women stay on the HRT to the 70s. So for me, maybe there's a lot of things we can do. One, I think, is understanding what is happening to your body and why it's happening, and understanding I'm not going crazy. That this is a symptom that is of the menopause, the end of reproduction, puberty in reverse, Mother Nature doing her job. And again, that's what Confident Women Ireland, I don't focus on the symptoms. I'm not a medical doctor. I focus on the mindset and the holistic approach in dealing with menopause and celebrating this time and chapter, phrase, and stages in our lives. Because there is life after menopause.
Yeah.
Sure.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So in your self-empowerment classes or coaching, is it predominantly women of that category in that age, or do you span straight across the spectrum with all different types of issues, mental health issues?
All mental health issues. Now, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but what I deal with different all age groups. And it's funny, even though now I'm putting, I'm marketing, there's that word marketing, my target audience to midlife. I'm getting more and more younger women at 30 phoning me, and younger. And it's again, lack of confidence. And these are really high powered women, but they've got lack of confidence in speaking up. Again, I go, well, that's the media, telling women they're not enough. I blame Oprah Winfrey. I'm sorry, Oprah. No, I don't apologize. She kept going, oh, you are enough. So that was subliminal message telling women they're not enough.
Yeah.
So, yes. So mental, where my coaching works, and it's really worked on me. And I spent years actually even sorting. Everybody goes through sort of questions their own mind at times. And when you think about it, everything comes down from the way I work is a mindset coach. So you think mental health, first of all, what is the source of the mental health? What is the source? What has happened in their life where they maybe have a mental health issues? And what is really mental health? You know, you've got these, and I had an issue here in Ireland, and it was, and I said it too on radio. We had a slogan: "It's okay not to be okay." And I always say, no, it's not. That I completely disagree with this. And this came from the mental health organizations. It's okay not to be okay. I says, no, it is our personal responsibility to be accountable, take responsibilities for our thoughts, the vocabulary, words, and language in our self-talk, internal language, and in our spoken words. So mental health issues and addictions. So if you say now you've got children, even as young as what that they're saying primary school age, or they've mental, I think she has mental health issues. I need to, keep. So that is all when you think it's programming from the media that.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
So
Yeah.
yes,
And
you have.
I love, sorry, Roisin, I love what you're saying there about taking responsibility, because I've lived my life of kind of giving my power away all through my life in whatever circumstance it is. And it was only through the past few years with the crazy shit show that's been happening, is that because there's for me, a huge lack of faith in terms of health in the UK, taking responsibility for yourself is absolutely crucial. Be it your own physical health, but your mental health, your well-being. You know, I spent a good period of my time last year self-healing, reprogramming my own subconscious, because I was repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. So we have to take responsibility.
You see, thoughts. So the way I work is, okay, what is your intention when you get up in the morning? Do you see yourself living in a hostile world or a friendly world? What are your first thoughts in the morning? And I remember somebody asking me that one time. And I said, well, I have an A, B, C, D, E, F, G strategy if everything goes wrong. And he said, oh my God. So he was coaching me, and he says, I'm exhausted before we even get out of the bed in the morning. Because as soon as I woke up, I was doing my NLP training at the time. And I know there's a lot of issues on the NLP, but I think everything can be worked for good and everything can be worked for bad. So there's two sides of every coin. So, but it works for me because I was exhausted before I woke. I woke up in the morning in a sense of stress as a single mom with two children. I had to drive 2 hours to go on a full day's course and not get back to maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And a teenager and a son, a teenager, a girl, and asking her to look after her maybe 10-year-old brother or something. So I had all this that sort of, I have to go, but what if this goes wrong, and had everything lined up.
It's stressful.
It's stressful. So does mental health come back to that? Is that all stress? And if mental health, is that where we're not trusting ourselves? We're not connected to who we are, to the intention, to our belief systems, to our core values, to our purpose, and to the intention of our purpose, which all have a frequency and vibration effect within our body, to the words we use, the emotional reaction, and then the physical reaction with our body, and then our behaviors and our thoughts and our emotions are all habits.
Can I just ask, Roisin, so in your teachings there, do you find that you end up taking the client back, maybe even sometimes to their childhood, to find out where this original trauma or where these thought patterns have evolved or come from? So we can start to sort of peel back those layers and understanding, look, you are somebody could be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, not realizing that it was actually something that happened in your, in your former years when you was a child at school, what's affecting you now. Is that the way your teachings go as well, or?
No, and here's why.
Go on.
And this is just my opinion,
Yeah.
okay? And what works for me and my clients.
Hmm.
I say that's counseling,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes I just ask my clients questions and I go, you don't have to answer my question. You don't have to tell me the story behind, either the lack of confidence, unless they want to. You don't have to tell me that story.
Yeah.
So what I do is I get them to focus on where they were, where they are now, and where they want to go.
Yes.
And then I get them to concentrate or get them to ask. I get my clients to ask themselves. I ask the question, get them to ask themselves the questions, and we connect to themselves. And first of all, starting off, what is the thought behavior patterns? What is the language they use in their self-talk? What is their tone of voice in their self-talk? What is their relationship with themselves? What
Yeah.
is that most? Because so going back to the past, I think there's too much emphasis on, oh my God, I remember talking to somebody who says, oh, what you could be thinking that because your mother might have thought that when you were in her womb. And I went, what? You know, is there too much emphasis on getting people stuck in trauma or life experiences that they had when they were children or when they were in their mother's womb or grandmothers or their mother was in their grandmother's womb, or their father? So it's about bringing everybody to the here and now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's what's good, because the second part of that question, what I wanted to ask was, which path and method do you use a teaching? Because people can live a lot of their life, and they do, in this repeating program of the
Yes.
story of the past.
Yeah.
But we also live in a time where time is precious and people want results right now. So sometimes what we can do, we can say, look, we don't, let's start this journey from today.
Yeah.
Where are you feeling today? And this is where we go from today forward. We don't have to keep living this story of the past, this repeated record, because that is why you're feeling like you are today.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I wondered if, where your teachings come in, but you've answered that.
It's about getting stuck. You see, I think too, there's an industry that wants people stuck in
Right.
helplessness. There's an industry of people getting stuck in being depressed, being and saying, oh, I have mental health issues when they're just maybe in low mood,
Mm-hmm.
or where, they are not connected to themselves or they're not achieving something. And they go, but I keep doing this, but I'm not achieving it. Why am I not getting the results? Well, you keep doing the same thing. Or if you keep doing the same behavior, have the same thought pattern, the same attitude of approach, we've all got to have an attitude with ourselves. So, do we have a negative attitude with ourselves? What is our own perception of who we are in the world that we live in? What is it? Who are we? Or are we listening to other people's perceptions of who we are? If I was caught up in the drama of my past, I wouldn't be out of bed in the morning. If
Yeah.
I let other people's opinions of me be my business, as Dr. Wayne Dwyer says, if I allowed other people's opinion of me or their perceptions of me, I wouldn't get up out of the bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing yourself, appreciating yourself, understanding who you are, and understanding we all have a purpose in life, and that is to connect to who we are. And it's taken me to my, the age I am to understand we cannot have relationships with other people until we have them with ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I
And the
agree.
most
And that's probably a good point to ask you, Roisin, because normally in people's lives, they do have trauma or experiences and incidents, and that takes them on a whole new path of understanding. So before sometimes we can help others, first of all, it starts with helping ourselves.
yeah,
We have to master ourselves before we can help someone else, you know, and give them the tools, because we can't do anything for anyone else. All we can do is put the information there for them, you know, to change themselves. So is that something you had to go through? So this journey that you're on now, is that because you had to work on yourself and issues in your past?
Definitely. You know, I was born with a complete hole. I had no nose. I had no palate. I never
Right.
spoke until I was 5. You know,
Is that cleft? Is that called the cleft lip?
yeah,
Yeah.
cleft lip, and I actually just had a hole. My mother had
Wow.
to spoon feed me with a teaspoon. You know,
Mm.
and I didn't speak, and I was told, my mum was told I'd be deaf, dumb, mute. The only thing I could do would be see and feel. You know, and
Wow.
you know, I suppose now in later life, I had a mother who believed, you know, don't have to believe everything that the consultants, and my daughter's a doctor, but you don't have to believe everything that medicine tells you, or that
Yeah.
doctors or consultants tell you. And so I never spoke until I was 5. I went to speech therapy, and I had my son. So I say I went to speech therapy until I was 30, you know, and as I said, I was a rage presenter, and before we came on air, I was telling you when I first spoke on radio, I was like, "Hello, my name is Roisin Ni Chleirigh." I was speech impediment. This day, you know, if you listen to me, I can have a very really heavy lisp, and but it's about being too. We talk about trauma and mental health. Are we stuck in the trauma?
Yeah,
That's
You
right.
know, I could say, "Oh my God," like people used to say, "Oh my God, you're so ugly," or you call me names and everything. But I learned not to let that bother me, because I don't know where I had the confidence from, but or that self belief. But you know, it's like here I am talking on Zoom with you two guys talking about periods, menopause, and everything else, and I never thought we were going to have this conversation. But if we don't believe in ourselves, how can we
yeah,
believe in our lives? How can we believe in anything? And it's a real personal relationship believing with ourselves. And it's about being a lot of people in with trauma. And then I had was born like the way I was born. Then you know, different things happened in my life. Then I had a marriage that ended, and it was really violent and everything else. I had to leave, come and move country, and then all the stigma. I've had an awful lot of trauma in my life.
Mhm.
However, I think resilience, the mental health issue, we're told it's okay not to be okay, but not being given the tools that we were all brought up with the younger generation, resilience,
Yeah.
knowing how to actually be resilient. All comes down to mindset, comes down to your intention
If you're enjoying everything that we're doing here at Drake, Michigan, please subscribe, ring my bell, and let's enjoy this journey together.
of getting up in the morning. It comes down to your core beliefs. Beliefs change through our lives. I do believe that our beliefs can change, but our core values never change,
No, that's true.
Yeah.
and our
Very powerful.
purpose
You,
never
you've got some
changes.
great messages there, Roisin. The messages are so amazing. That, you know, it self love is just, if you can reach that point where you actually look inside and go, you know what, I do love myself, and it's not being, you know, there's this stigma of selfishness and this, that, and the other. Because I lived with that. I gave everything. I gave myself to everyone.
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
last year where I went, you know what, I do love myself, and I love who I am, and that changed my life.
yeah.
That
It
power then, because once you find that self love, you don't get hurt as much.
You're free. It's freedom.
It is
And
freedom.
I always tell people, you know, you've got all this marketing, and coming this fake narrative of self love. Oh, go out and buy that BMW. Go out and buy the designer clothes and handbags and everything else. And it's all about buying the brands and the corporate. Self love, to me, define self. And then there's this other self love. Oh, you can say no, you know, and there's a selfish side. I think it's a very dirty, dark side of the self love industry.
Mm,
And that has been, I think that's changing now. That is really changing, like the feminism. And then
yeah.
you have the self love. What is self love? Self-love is just accepting who you are, what you look like. Like I'm 5 foot nothing. And in my, and I'm going, well, God, I don't think I was ever this small before, you know, and so like I'm 5 foot nothing, that is it, and I grew up having to have many plastic surgeries, reconstructive surgeries, learning how to speak, and but the self-love part comes in going back to the core value. Who are we?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what we look like, doesn't matter how tall or small, thin or fat we are. We are soul. We're light. And
Yes.
we are pure. We were born with pure love. A baby is born with pure love, trust, and smiling and giggling and the hysterics. We are born with confidence, self-confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
100%.
taken away from you with the programming that we endure through our childhood, etc. And it's about remembrance. It's about
Yeah,
remembering that, like you say, that baby, your true essence, and reconnecting to that essence of who you really are, not the meat suit you carry or the programming you've had.
Can I just jump back in there, Roisin, because there's so many points which are very empowering and very people could take inspiration from, whether that's the health issues and everything that you've had to go through to moving and because of domestic issues and marriage breakdowns. So, and then the fact that you sat here smiling and talking with us and bubbly, because there's empowerment in that, because people say there is life after trauma and life after difficulties and life after menopause. But if I can just quickly bring you back to some of the sort of the darker days of the soul, if you like, and your trouble. Did you find your confidence and your personality and your confidence was affected? Did you withdraw, and then did you have
yeah,
to learn how to master and get the real Roisin back? And if
yeah.
you did, how how could you explain maybe a few little tips to help people? Or
Definitely, Dark. I stopped communicating with myself.
Mm.
And I just concentrated on my two children. I didn't even, oh, I just, and what I noticed one of the things was I actually overcompensated. Everything was for the children, and so I completely disconnect. To me, it was like I disconnected with myself and gave everything to my children, and it was like I didn't matter
Mm.
because to me, my job was to make sure they had everything. In hindsight, I tell other women now going through a breakup. I met a lady on the high street. I said, I know this is a cliche, but do look after yourself. Stop putting yourself first, even one day a week, or saying, I stopped saying no. I became a yes, yes, yes woman instead of saying no when I should have said yes. I saying yes when I should have said no.
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't that I hated myself, I hated my life.
Mm.
And then I noticed I didn't even verbalize that with myself. Everything was just repetitive. Everything was just, it was like I was in a dream.
Mm.
And,
yeah,
it was like I didn't even look after myself. My health, I've had more health issues, one after another and after another. And it was only, when I realized a couple of years ago, I would say self healing is the most powerful healing. Again, there's another cliche about self healing, self love. Self healing all begins with yourself saying, okay, I need to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And I remember that's when I went back and I started studying. I did holistic treatments, holistic massage, and the Reiki and all that. And then I realized, okay, but I was doing my coaching course, and they're going, okay, but this is a coaching course. Everything's great. There's a missing ingredient. I'm sitting out in the garden in my other home, and I says, oh my God, there's still something missing. And I said, what is it? And then all of a sudden, I went into the bookshop and I saw a book. It's actually here, NLP for sport, because my children were in. And I went, what is that? I just picked it up, didn't even know. My daughter was all into sport and coaching, and it's all about how the mindset, how we speak to ourselves in language. I knew nothing about sport, right? I said, this is the book for me. Only reading, flicking through, this is whatever it is in this book. Went home, and it's a beautiful sunny day, reading it. This is the missing ingredient. I still have it here. Where is it? It's about thoughts. It's about how we speak to ourselves, the tone of voice. And I had to relearn to listen to even the tone of voice in which I spoke to myself. And then I realized I spoke to myself so angry, so harsh, so fast. There was no love in my voice for me, but I had with my children. So I said, okay. So I had to relearn in listening to, first of all, I listened to the tone of voice in which I spoke to myself. I was always telling myself off instead of listening. Then I started listening to the language, the words and vocabulary. I know they're all the same, but they're not in one sense, because it's like the behavior of my self-talk. I have to change, and it takes. A lot of people say, well, how long can it take? It can take as long or within 1 hour. I had a lady phone me last week, and she said, Roisin, I said, within 20 minutes, we had everything sorted. So changing that, first you have to acknowledge. You've got to sit down and and acknowledge that, I'm in the wrong place in my mindset and in the perception of me in the world that I live in.
Yeah.
I have to change the perception of me and accepting. I think the hardest thing for many people, again, this is the programming of life, shit happens. Shit happens to people. And if we were all living in a perfect world, in a perfect life, there'd be no learning in it.
That's
There'd be
true.
no overcoming obstacles. It isn't about, I remember I used to do an awful lot of horse riding when I was younger, and Vicky used to say, it doesn't matter how many times you fall off, it's about getting back up.
100%.
So then I used to do this thing. Okay, if I fall, she said, you can't ride a horse until you fall off 99 times. Then the 100 you can. So then we lived in Saudi Arabia, so I had this Arab horse. Used to ride this Arab horse, and so I used to get my friends to count how long I stayed on the horse and how long it took me to fall off and land in the. So it's about resilience, but resilience is also going. But if I'm here in this life, what is life about? We all are asking that question. What is our life? What is our purpose in this life? We don't know, but a lot of people are now understanding why we're here. So, what is our purpose? What is my intention? What do I want for me? Instead of listening to telling everybody what I should do, what I should think, how I should behave, and what my position in life is. I was a single mother. I lived in a very conservative place where, single mothers, you're this, you're that. And I had one woman say to me, oh, your daughter's very ambitious. She must get that from her father. And I looked, and this is a school teacher. And I just looked at her and smiled and said, I'm not going to argue. I just thought, just smiled and went like this. So getting out of those negative, dark places of life situations, you got to really believe in yourself that you can get out of those situations. There is life. This is only a situation. How do I get out of it? What do I have to do to get out of it? And become an observer of yourself, of how you are reacting to life situations, or what on other people's shit, that they're not dumping it on you.
Yeah. Do you find, Roisin, as well? So when you look back at your life now, because this is one thing what we explain to people. Sometimes the universe will already be doing miracles.
Yeah.
You just might not see it yet.
Yeah.
But when you remember is, if you've just had 10 or 20 years of shit, there's a lot of unraveling to sort out. And the universe is an amazing web and an amazing jigsaw, and it knows how to put everything in place exactly as it needs to be. So when you can look back at your life now, and I'm sure you have, there would have been certain times where a certain person would have walked into your life,
Yes.
or you found a certain book just at the right time, or a certain program come on telly. Now, people don't realize, but this is the universe saying, this is what you need right now. And everything is perfectly aligned, and people are exactly where they need to be.
Yes.
You know, despite, and I was only writing this myself the other day because I was thinking about some notes. And before we come down to this meat suit, this earth plane, if we were a soul and we were picking the program of this game that we wanted to play, you know, and we chose, look, I'm going to take on this really difficult challenge. I know I'm capable, but I'm going to take on, you know, it could be childhood trauma, it could be failed marriages, it could be longing for love. Then you've decided now the other side of that program is overcoming all those challenges.
Yeah.
So everything, you know, people are going through it, but if you knew that you were coming down here to experience and go through that,
Yes.
so now you can start to look at your life from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I love when the universe opens doors and someone walks into your life and you're like, what are you doing here today? And then and if you look back, you'd be like, but I wasn't even supposed to be here today.
Yes.
You know, it's because my bus got delayed or my train got delayed, and now I'm here. And now I've met you, and these are the miracles.
And you know, I tell you also how it works too. I wanted to do something, a big project, and I met this person a couple of times, and my intuition was, I don't trust that person. I don't like that person. But this person was saying they could do this and do that. So then I said, okay, I want to, you know, get their advice on something because they claimed that they're, you know, they could do this. So anyway, so I said, I just want to, you know, seek your advice on, you know, what I should do. So anyway, this is how the universe works. Even when you're not listening to your intuition, for me, in my opinion, right? My nose is itchy, look now, so I'm gonna. So, so I said, okay, I want to go up and meet this person and ask their advice because they put themselves as such an expert. And so this happened this year, and in January. So then I said, okay, you'll do me a great favor, give me your time. I will drive 3 hours to meet you. So I have an old car So I would hire a car if I go out, you know, long journeys. And like what I'm working from home now, so an old car suits me great. It's a little mini micro. I can go in and out, and it's nifty and everything else. So I went down. I booked the hire car. Went down to collect it. They hadn't got it. They had forgotten all about it. They didn't have one. So okay, right. I'll take my car. And then I went to the petrol station, filled up the car, full up with petrol. And I went in to pay for it. It wouldn't take my card. And I had another card, so I put it, but it wouldn't take my card. So I went out and I said, but there's money in, I know exactly what we're going to get. Plenty of money in the account. You know how you do. So I went out to the car and I said, I'll go and check. Maybe I need to transfer money, you know, maybe something. Went out, I couldn't get on the internet. I had no internet at the car at the petrol pump. A lady came over to me and says, look, do you need money? You know, I can pay for your petrol. I said, no, I'm fine. You know, I'm fine. And I had cash, but I didn't want to use it for that. I wanted to keep it. And I went, I'm cash there. Look, I can use it. But I was in my head, is what's going on? You know.
You're not meant to go there, were you?
So then the guy came out to me and says, look, we can put your long number in, because he knew we can put your long number in. And he's a young guy. So I said, brilliant, I can do that. No, I got onto the internet and I said, look, that's how much money. And he looked at me and he said, and he looked at the car and he looked at me and then, okay, come in, right? We can do the long number. And because there was a queue for the petrol. So I went in, I paid for that. No problem. And I showed him the balance to let him know I can afford it, you know. And I came out and I said to the people in the car, my God, it looks, if one more thing happens, we're not to go on this journey. Right? I said, something's telling, right? I'm not listening. I went to start, the car wouldn't start.
Fabulous.
And there was a big click. And I went, oh my God. And then the guys at the cash register, they all came out, are you okay? They must have seen me sitting there. I said, the car won't start. And the young guy who was paying the thing, he says, I don't think you're supposed to go on this journey.
Yeah.
It turned out, so then I was really apologetic, thinking, oh my God, this expert who claims to be an expert, but I had issue. I still didn't trust it. It was like
the
deep down,
intuition.
right? And so then he said, look, we'll push it over to the parking space overnight. I said, oh, thank you, really apologetic, really embarrassing. But then the embarrassment went because I knew I wasn't meant to go on that journey. I wasn't meant to even speak to that person. So then they came back and I messaged the person, had to walk from the petrol station here with my friends. And I said, look, I'm really sorry. And they said, oh, I'm here already. And I go, well, this is 12 o'clock. We're not meeting till 3. So you can hardly be there when you're only about 10 minutes away. And then I saw that they put up on the social media that they were in another place an hour away from where they lived, right? Okay, well, that was a lie. My intuition said, you're not telling the truth. So we agreed to go on Zoom. And during the Zoom conversation, I went, oh my God, I know now why I wasn't. You haven't got a clue what you're talking about. And you're trying to steal and take my work as your own. And own all the rights. But that goes, I know it's a long-winded story, but it goes to show, as you said, people come into your life to help you, but also things happen that you think are negative, but for a reason.
Well, you're looked after, aren't you?
Yeah. And I mean, people have to realize, first of all, trust your instincts and your gut more. And then people tend to overshadow that. And then sometimes the universe will give you an even bigger nudge, and really you should be paying attention to that. What was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought. Sorry. People coming into your life. Sometimes it's not always positive. Sometimes people can come into your life with a negative experience, but there is value in learning that as well.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
And that's where, whether that's in meditation or contemplation or thought, sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what do I need to learn? What am I being taught in this situation? Because
we all
there's
make
always
mistakes. I see a lot of people think, oh, you're always making mistakes. We're going to keep making mistakes until we learn by the mistakes. And if life was a bed of roses, there'd be no learning. There would be no growing. There'd be no, and I always say with Confident Women Island, it's about getting to know yourself. When you get to know yourself, you trust yourself, you listen to your intuition, and you're connected to your spirit, you're connected to your soul. And when you have that alignment of knowing, I always say, knowing your intention, knowing your purpose, knowing your beliefs and your core values. Beliefs can change, but your core values stay the same, in my opinion. You get to know the purpose of everything you're doing. Then you start to listen to your internal thoughts and the language, and then the spoken words, and then the emotions, and then the behaviors and habits, because everything's a habit, even, and our body language and our health. And we get the outcomes. We're looking for an outcome in life. We're all looking for outcomes. But to get to that outcome, there's strategies. We have to get the intention right. We have to get the belief in that outcome. We've got to get align the intention, the belief, and the core values to the purpose, to our thought strategy, and our emotional connection to the outcome, if it's good for the highest intention for ourselves and for the universe and for everybody else involved. And we've got to make sure that all that is aligned. And when we're doing that, we are trusting our intuition. And there's something else I always tell people. When we're aligned, we're in the present moment. I spent so much of my life being outside my present moment. What if, like I said, my strategies, I had A, B down to G, right? I wasn't in the present moment. I wasn't. So you can either live in the past or live in the future, or the both. But if you cannot master the present moment, you cannot be in the future. But what you can do is you can let go of the past, and where you can enjoy the moment.
You can surrender your future because
Oh,
that's where a lot of anxiety will come, with a future that you don't even know is going to be here. It may never happen, and being present is the true gift, isn't it? You know, if you can do that, you've got peace.
peace, inner peace.
Yeah.
And there's nothing as, you know, there's nothing as liberating as that freedom of your own mind, knowing yourself, that freedom of surrendering to life obstacles, life situations that could be negative and really just sort of sabotaging what you say your life. There's other people's issues could be. I think it's the most important is not allowing other people's negative issues or their negative intentions become your intentions. So we've got to separate and not let them come and sort of sabotage you. But at the same time, you get a lot of people saying that doesn't suit me right now. You know, that is because they say I have to love myself and show myself love. And I think a lot of people are separating this fake self-love industry with real good intentions for our fellow man and woman and children and animals and nature. And being in that present moment for me, I remember it was actually live on air on radio. I remembered I actually heard myself being in the present moment.
Nice.
And as I said, I'm from Derry, so we speak really fast up in Derry. And if I had my Derry accent, you wouldn't understand me anyway. And just listen to the Derry girls, and you would probably have to have a translator, you know. And and I have a speech impediment, and it was October 2018. I remember because you know how I got everything. I was talking to someone, and I was doing my intro. And I heard my voice. It was slower, it was clearer. I had no lisp, I had no speech impediment. And I heard my voice. I didn't have any of the clutter of what if they don't pick up the phone? What if the phone drops? It was a phone conversation. And you know, what if everything goes? What questions do I have to ask them? I was in the present moment and I was speaking in the mic with my earphones on, doing my intro. I heard my voice and my mind was quiet.
Nice. Lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah, lovely.
It's very powerful. Very powerful.
It is. It is.
Do you? We were just speaking before we come on air. A little bit more about obviously your spiritual background.
Yeah.
And obviously you've mentioned do you still do the healing, the Reiki healing? Do you do sessions
I
of
don't do
healing?
the Reiki healing. I think what I believe is my purpose is to help heal people's minds.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. That's
And you know, for me, I think that's my purpose now and my role, which always was. I remember in 2001, it was October 2001. I've always been, sounds really weird. I always saw spirit as a child. I always spoke to spirit. I didn't speak to a spy, but my mother said I'd have these conversations and be nodding and talking. And so I always saw spirits, and I always saw ghosts, as they say back then. Saw ghosts, and someone's popping up my screen, and so I always saw, and I always had faith. I would say the thing that got me into all through the trauma of my life and my life experiences and the shit, because shit happens, and the unfairness, unjustness of life was my faith. I was accepted into the convent. You know, I haven't told many people this. I was accepted. Like when I was young, I said, "Go in the convent." My mother laughed. Says, "Well, you wouldn't last in the convent because I was always free spirited. You know, I was always a free spirit. You won't last." So I was accepted into the convent in Sligo, and then at the last minute, then I said, oh God, they're all so, doing as they're told, I wouldn't last. So then I end up marrying a Presbyterian, a Catholic marrying a Presbyterian. And don't know why I'm saying that. Anyway, so I always had strong faith. I always knew and understood that there was something more valuable, and it was a feeling. And no matter what people told me, they didn't believe. I always had strong faith, and I always listened to that faith. And I do believe there's a no, I do believe in, now you say God, now you have to sort of say, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe, but I don't, and I believe there is something more powerful. And my guardian angels, I've always believed in my guardian angels. And sometimes I say, get off your lazy wings and get down here and help me. But again, that's it too. That we have to have a sense of humor. And again, it's like unless we ask our guardian angels, they cannot interfere with free will. We have free will. And I think that's really important, free will. So we were talking before we came on air about, power of intention and, telling God what you want, and they gave it to us. I always noticed when I was younger, I would say, I want this, I want that. And, and it came if it was for my highest good.
Yeah.
So, and every prayer was always answered. And I noticed if I asked for something or said I would love this and did my reading of Venus, I love my reading of Venus. So if I did that and I didn't get it, I find out later on there was a reason why, right? And so my faith has really got me through, and spirit. I remember one time we left the north and went over to England, and we were lost. We were in I think was it Yarmouth or Great Yarmouth one day. I had to go somewhere, Great Yarmouth, and my brother. So I went over to Great Yarmouth, and so we were lost. Me and my two children. My daughter was only about, I would say, she was about 8. My son was only 4.5, and this lady came towards us, and I said, I'll ask this lady. She was a lady with really black curly hair, red lipstick, big glasses, and yellow jumper, and black skirt, black tights, black shoes. And she's around my height. And I said, I'm sorry, we're lost. Could you tell me where we go? She's right over that building there. And I was going to go straight across, straight past it. And so I said, and my children said, my God, she was like an angel meeting us here. And I said, yeah, I had this feeling. And we turned around at the same time. She disappeared. She couldn't disappear anywhere.
Wow.
She couldn't have just disappeared. We all said, but there was nowhere for her to go. She just couldn't disappear. So again, my faith, I always trusted in my guardian angels and trusting it in God and prayed to Jesus. And when we were young in Derry, they said, you say if you're getting scared, say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus 3 times and you'll be fine. And the fear, nothing can hurt you if you say Jesus 3 times. So I've always done that as well, and my mom, do I believe in religion? No, not anymore. Like I was a Catholic, wanting to go to the convent, married Presbyterian. I don't believe in religion. I believe in faith.
Yeah.
Especially with everything's happening now with the Catholic Church in Ireland. I remembered I had my 2 children, and Father Brendan Smith, he brought down the Irish government with because of his the paedophilia within the Catholic Church, and he was actually in prison in McGilligan in Derry. And I remember there was a lady, a colleague who I worked with, her husband was a prison officer, and she would tell us stories that he would come and tell us. And I went, oh my God. So I stopped going to Mass. But I really missed my faith, but I had the faith. And I thought, how can I go into a church that tells me we're all sinners when the church are protecting with the Vatican paid for this high-tech protection of a bungalow for him. So am I religious? I'm not religious, but I have faith and I believe in my faith. I think religion is corrupt. Now, probably a lot of people will disagree with me and say this. I think religion is a business and it can be corrupt. No one can.
I think a lot of people would agree with you.
But no one can take away what's in your heart. No one can
No.
take away what's in your soul, what's in your spirit. And this is something very recent that happened. It was, I can tell you again, it was November. I don't know why October and November happens. I was out walking the dog, and she wanted out all of a sudden at about 9. So I said, "Oh, no, no, come in." She stood at the front door crying. And she was a big dog, just looked at me and was crying, and walking backwards and stamping her feet. She's a real diva. If she was a human, she would be Mariah Carey. She would just, she's beautiful and she knew it. And she was loved and she knew it. And she knew when she went out, everybody would look at her, she'd be prancing. Anyway, so it was so I went and put on her harness and we went out and she was plodding along. And I have a green here at the side of the house. Across the road is another green. And so I just said, okay, a short walk. And I never take her out at that time of night. And she'd go out the garden, or just this green. So I went over to the other green and walked down the pathway and came back a V. And there was this big bright light. And I looked because there was no lamps there, street lamps. And I looked and there's a big white light and blue at the end around it, and like a big tail. And it stopped. And my dog looked at me, looked at that, and walked on. And this big bright, it was like a massive orb. And it stopped. It wanted me to see it. And it just went straight along the path. I was at the pathway. I must actually walk. It must be about maybe 800 meters or 500 meters. And all of a sudden it went along the path and it just went straight up. And I thought, oh my God, is that a meteor? Is it a meteor? What is it? And I thought, oh my God, and there was nobody. Where we live, there's always someone out walking, running, jogging, doing something, even at that time of night. There was no one. No one. And I thought, God, there's no one here. So came back home and I said to my friend, God, was there anybody out? Did anybody else see a meteor? Something. I didn't know what a meteor is, but you hear people. But I said, sure, there was a meteor, it would crash into something. And I remember go, oh my God, I hope a car doesn't come. It might crash into the car. But it was the stillness within me and the quietness. And then I realized it just doesn't stop for you to wait to see it and acknowledge it and then slowly move on and just go straight up. Where did it go? Like if it's a meteor, does it not just crash into the ground?
Yes.
And then my dog died then the January 10th after that. And so I go, oh God, and then that was in November 19 before the pandemic and everything else. So I just said was that just a gentle reminder we're here? And some people could say, was it an orb? I'm going to risk my reputation here. I'm going to say, I've been thinking about it. Was that my higher self?
Right.
Was that my guardian angel? Or was that my higher self?
Yeah.
People are going to think I'm mad here. Look, my reputation will be gone. But so that brings me more since that. If we are all light and all spirit, and if this body, is just a vehicle or an instrument, and if we are all bright lights and orbs, then either that was my guardian angels, but I don't think it was. So then I started thinking, what if that was my actual higher self? And now I sometimes think, what if now I know what my higher self looks like and feels like? What if we are just lights and orbs? What if we are that? And so, my children, my daughter lives in Cork, my son's in the Irish Defence Forces, he's going to Lebanon, and, all his first overseas tour, and I'm going, oh my God, the drama. And I go, no, I'm not going to be dramatic. So all through my life, when my children, you're saying, oh God, before you go saying your prayers, I always get my higher self to talk to my children's higher selves, and saying, you're good, I love you, blah, blah, blah. When you're fighting with your teenage children and you go to bed and you're fighting, you go, oh, no, no, no. So then at night you go, but I love you, I'm doing it for your highest good, and I'm contacted their higher selves. Yeah. And I just wonder now, what if in my wildest Hollywood, well, not Hollywood, but if I was writing a script, and what if that was actually my higher self saying, with everything that's happened that was November 19, everything that's happened where we're all questioning everything, doubting everything that we're told. But what if that was, I'm here, trust yourself, trust your intuition. And what if again, that was matching what my work is about, getting to know yourself, connecting to yourself. And what is our higher self? And then I had dreams, and it was all these orbs and all different sizes of orbs, different colors. And then so they were all, I was walking through all these different, first of all, there were small orbs, different colored orbs, were all in the, like marbles. Remember the marbles we used to play with? All different colors. And then they would get bigger and bigger. Then I was in the dream, I stopped, and then two different orbs came, and there was a man and a woman in the orb. And I remember that was where I said, define feminine, define masculine. And I went, right. And that happened just after I saw this. I thought, okay, definitely lost my marbles now. I've definitely lost my But again, it's about, we think what's happening in the world with the definition of a woman. Over here, we have a massive issue. The politicians can't even define what a woman is. And what's happened with the children, you can change, if you don't like your body, your sex, you can change. So is there a war against, a spiritual war against, or was there against, spiritual war? Now it's the human war, where the infantry war, where we're all turning against one another, and where the dark side is trying to change the sex of Mother Nature and take away the war against women, children, and men. And so now I think, wow, that orb, whatever I saw, it was my imagination. If we connect to our higher selves, we don't have fear.
No.
Fear is the biggest driver of controlling people.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is.
I don't know where that came from.
It's lovely. Thanks for sharing that with us, Roisin. It's lovely.
It's interesting what you're saying as well, because it's about balance as well. So where you're talking about the divine feminine, and the divine, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, that again is about ourselves, and again is finding the balance, because we all have a feminine and a masculine, but it's about the balance and being true to yourself and finding that power within. And everything that's going on in the world right now is literally there to distract and create fear, to pull you away from your true essence and your true power and knowing who you are. Yeah. So the work that you're doing at the moment is amazing, because it's bringing back that individual's opportunity to find themselves. So, thank you for the work that you're doing there. It's important.
And it's funny, Roisin, just quickly go back as well. So, this seems to come out a lot when I speak to different people, but sort of, if we go back to around about 2007, 2008, 2009, them few years.
Yes.
A lot of people went through their awakening, or something happened. And it certainly was for me. Speaking to you, it seems like that was a prominent time for you. And I remember going back, because I met back in the day when I was going through a lot of learning and these difficulties and challenges and all the spiritual experiences. I met this beautiful woman called Lillian O'Neill. And she was she worked in the NHS, so she was a very empathic in herself, but then also she was a healer, and she was like a counselor. She was just a great, great lady. And I've got some great stories where she helped me. But I remember once she said to me, she shared a story where she'd got a message from her guides for me. And basically she said, Kevin, I want you to, the guides are saying you're like a dandelion leaf. She said, you don't realize the work that you're doing now is not for now. All these seeds are blowing far, far and wide. And she said, now you don't realize whose life you've touched, and they will go into the soil and they will grow dandelions far and wide. And because my life hadn't turned out how I was thinking it at the time, but she said to me, she said, Kevin, this is not your time now. This is your time for learning. And this is your time for understanding what's going on. She said, because she actually said, in about 15 years' time, people are going to be searching for people who can help them wake up. People are going to be searching for help. People are going to want to know why you're not panicking, why you're not worrying, why you're not stressing. And she said, everything you're going through now, as difficult as it is for them.
Yes.
And I remember, but back then I said, you're off your rocker. I said, I'm not interested in nothing like that. And she said, no, you will. She said, you'll end up talking and you know, and speaking with people. And I said, I would never do nothing like that. And then 15 years later, we're sat here and we're talking and we're having these seminars and that is, you know, the journey. The one unbelievable journey, and I wouldn't change any of it. It just, you know, all the difficulties, all the struggles, but they are so important. So you can sit in front of that client, that person, and you can relate to them. And you know what I mean? And
it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and putting and all the dots and the dots in the dot and joining the dots. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that makes up the bigger picture. And you know, as I said before we came up on air, that I went in to study psychology and came out signing up for media and public relations for my degree. And it's like, oh my God, no, why did I sign that? But that was part of the picture of the journey that I'm on. Given, I gave women a platform on my radio show. I gave startup businesses a platform. You think that what's happening is taken away. It's even small local businesses. So small local businesses need platforms, and we need to get back to small local businesses. One woman said to me, is the DNA of our town, our villages, our county, and our city, and our country. The small local businesses is our DNA, and that's what the community is. And so you've got all these big, large corporations coming in, taking away the local supermarket, the local news agent, who used to know everybody in the community and look after the older people. And so I never thought I'd be on radio. I never thought I'd be sitting here telling you my intimate life, you know, and even telling things I've not really told many people before. There's a reason for me talking to you today, telling you things that I had no intention of speaking about. You know,
we do tend to have this. I don't know how we do it, but we tend to unlock these doors in people. But there must be a reason, because there'll be somebody who listens and they'll say, "I needed that."
Yeah, and I'm usually you sitting there doing the same thing to other people, you know, and so it's. And I met a lady on the high street the other day as well, and she says, "Oh, Roisin, I went on your radio stations. I felt guilty, disloyal to you for going in." And she said, "Because you taught me you gave my business a platform. I've got my businesses running and operating. And you're the one. I'd never been on radio before. I coached them before they came on the show. I went to meet them for coffee, told them, you know, about the program. We don't know. I think there's too much people getting caught in the drama of life situations, and there's an industry and a strategy and a plan to keep people in bad mental health. And it's up to us to help heal people and say, no, you know, get up. Doesn't matter how many times you fall, it's about getting back up.
And a nice way just to round this off, because we started the conversation and you're talking about the power of how things used to be, of groups of men or groups of women, and the power of community.
Yes.
And that is really the true spirit and essence of any area. So, and the machine which is doing all its damage, has done its uppermost to divide and conquer and
Yes.
distract and separate.
Yeah.
You know, it's even separated the family unit.
Yeah. It has.
Now,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
then where we're coming from, and we're talking about coming back together as a community, as
Yeah.
unity, and helping each other through difficult periods in our lives,
Yeah.
and the power in that must be frightening to because
Yeah.
that's not what they want, and
No.
but that's what's coming, and there's a great world just around the corner. I feel that in my bones. A lot of people have doom and gloom, but I don't
Oh,
believe it is
yeah.
doom and gloom. I think
No.
there's something magical.
No.
And when people
The doom
realize
and gloom is gone. It's lost. The war.
it's
The war. It's. Do you know what? I am so happy because, in one sense, the war. This was all won in the round. This was 1 year ago, before
percent
the pandemic. It was all won beforehand. It was won. Um, it was won, and it's up to us, the people, to actually now say no more.
Yeah.
Only so many people can do their job. It's up to us. It's the infantry now, and we are the infantry in any war. And I just know, and people go, "Oh, the stress again, the fear mongering, and everything else." People have to acknowledge again about self responsibility, accountability, to actually see what is get their heads out of the sand
yeah,
and see right from wrong and stand up and say, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
No. And be able to go back to the way it was, where you could politely and respectfully disagree with someone
yeah,
with the censorship, because we're all saying, censorship. And censorship is a deliberate strategy to silence us. And, I suppose I never spoke to five, but I suppose I never stopped talking since I could speak, and but it's about overcoming that silence, overcoming the different ways people are silencing us, because it's free will, and free will has been taken away from us, and
Yeah.
it's about too. I think it's about respecting one another's life, their soul, their spirit, and their purpose. And I always say you can disagree with someone very respectfully, but still respect them.
yes, 100%,
Oh, definitely.
100%. And again, it all comes back to that learning
Yeah,
from each other, and learning a different way of thinking.
Mm.
yeah,
Um, and I just want to just end, because I've been very fortunate where I've just come back off a beautiful holiday. But one thing while I was away, and because we're all guilty of getting caught up in our own little bubble sometimes,
yeah,
and think the world is how we see it in our bubble. But when we get out of that comfort zone, and one thing when I was on holiday, I thought we really are living in a beautiful, beautiful world. There is so much beauty in nature, on the sea, in the I mean, we were lucky enough to go and climb Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius, I think it was.
wow,
We just had some amazing sights, and so there's so much beauty and there's so much positive out there. And if we're stuck at home in this bubble and the news and the fear mongering, and this is no good for anyone. So we
No.
need to get out in nature.
Yeah.
We need to get out with our family and friends, and in the community.
Yeah.
And this is where the real good life starts.
turn off
Um,
the television, turn off the news.
Absolutely.
I've
Oh,
no television, and I've no television. My son's going, as I said, he's going overseas. He says, "Mommy, I'm going to have to bring my TVs over to you." And I go, "I don't want them. I don't want a black box in my living room." But
no,
it's about turning
exactly.
off the
Turn it
TVs,
off.
getting the board games out with children, taking away these phones from children, and um, it's about connecting core family values, core community values, and just getting really connected to who we are. And when we're connected to who we are, we're connected to other people. Have that relationship with ourselves, then we can have fulfilling relationships with people. Like my grandmother married her husband when she was only 16, and he died when he was 56, and she used to say to me, love marriage and relationship. You look now, there's an industry to break up marriages and for relationships to break down. There's an industry for that. And also the media and film industry and entertainment industry helped feed that industry. Because we all got in it. We all got into, oh, this isn't working. It's not working. I'll dump it. Working. But there is times when you have to walk away from toxic, negative relationships, and that is so important. But also, I asked somebody recently. I said, because I divorced, I separated after 8 years of marriage, and my daughter's 31 and she was 6. So that's what, how many, 25, 26, 25 years ago? And been a single mother since then to my son. My daughter was 6, my son was 2. So I asked her a couple of years ago, what was the success of your happy marriage? They were together about 25 years. And she said, now this may sound just a thing, I'll get a lot of flack on this, but I get it. She says, as a woman, she said, I found from my experience, you have to look up to the man. And the man has to really value and appreciate and cherish his wife. And I thought, yeah, because this feminism is, oh, I know more than you. It's about equality. So if I think that's lovely. And I think, yeah, when you can, a man, I said this to my son as well, that your partner has to be your friend. And he broke up with his partner recently. He says, I said, well, what was it? And, trust mother, and we never got on, never liked, and knew it wasn't the right one. He says, I always remember you said that, you have to, if you want a lifelong partner, it has to be a friend.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the woman has to look up to the man, and the man has to, in return with the balance, cherish, protect, honor, respect his wife with dignity and integrity.
100%.
Yeah.
I fully agree, because the thing is, if we look at, it's two different types of energies.
Yeah.
If they were the same energy, then it would be like a magnet. It wouldn't go together.
Yeah.
Now, old scripture and old biblical stories and everything, they believe the soulmates were once joined, but the gods didn't like it. So what they did was they cut us in half. And that's where the saying about finding your soulmate comes from. Now,
Right.
so it is the two energies coming together as one. Now, in male and female, we all have different emotions and feelings. So, like from a man's point of view, even whether it's sex in the bedroom or whether it's affection from his wife, a man takes rejection very difficult. So even like when a woman says, oh no, I'm not interested, to her it might just not, but to a man, that rejection. Now, the same could be said the other way, where the woman's got dressed up and everything else, and the man's just not made that effort to say, you look lovely tonight.
Yeah.
I really love you. Now, for a man, it could be like actual sex, but for a woman, it could just be that acknowledgement that the man still finds her attractive and he loves her, and that whether it's that
It could just be a look.
Yes. So, but the thing is, but these two energies coming together is what makes it so perfect.
Yeah.
And that's but we could talk all day on another show about and love, because we want to go in that route as well. We want an episode where we're talking about love and relationships, and so.
It all begins with ourselves, and it's also how we treat ourselves is how we treat other people.
100% as well. Yeah.
Roisin, how do people find you? Where should they go to find you and learn about what you're offering?
They can find me on confidentwomenisland.ie, and my email address is info@confidentwomenisland. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and on Facebook, but I very rarely go on Facebook or Instagram, but basically you can, if you message me, I'll get you there. We can connect with one another, and my phone number is also on the website as well.
And you mentioned you're doing retreats, so you would so ladies in England would be able to come over to Ireland to one of your retreats.
Yes, well, I'm hoping. I was supposed to start in October, but I decided I want to get to the nuts and bolts of events and management, and so Confident Women Ireland will be launching midlife women's retreats next year in January. We'll be launching them, and they'll be over here in Ireland, and we'll have for all international women to come together, celebrate our midlife, and know that this is just the middle of it. There's a life after midlife, and it's about time connecting to ourselves. We've given so much to our children, to our marriage, our families. It's about time to actually pause. I call it pause for the menopause, pause for postmenopause, and get ready for the life afterwards and celebrating womanhood.
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
Thank you for joining us today, Roisin.
Thank you so much for your time, Roisin. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I didn't know what we were going to talk about, what we were going to say, so I just let it go.
That's the best way. It's the best way. Let's just go with the flow, and what's meant to be said will come out.